The thing about Tuesday mornings is they're too quiet. The campus cafe doesn't get busy until around 10, so at 9:30 it's just me, my lukewarm coffee, and the hum of the espresso machine. I always tell myself I'm here for the caffeine, but I know better. She comes here too. Not every day. Not even predictably. But often enough that I've learned to sit where I can see the door without looking like I'm waiting. When she walks in, it's like the volume in the room shifts, not louder, just sharper, like I've suddenly become more aware of my own posture, the way I'm holding my cup, the fact that my knee bounces too much when I'm nervous. My best friend's older sister. Mid-40s, though you wouldn't guess it if you didn't know. Hair pulled back, clean lines of a blazer that doesn't look like she's trying. She orders the same thing every time, black coffee, no sugar, and the barista doesn't even have to ask anymore. Today, she catches me before I can bury myself in my notebook. "You're here early," she says, setting her bag down at the table beside mine. Not asking permission, not even hesitating. Just there. I manage a small laugh. "Yeah. Couldn't sleep." She studies me for a second, like she doesn't believe me but won't press. Then she folds her napkin once, twice, as if it gives her something to do with her hands. I watch, stupidly fascinated, until she notices and raises an eyebrow. I look away too quickly, pretending to sip. We've had maybe a dozen conversations in the last few months, always by accident, bumping into each other at the cafe, running into her when I'm picking up something from her brother's place. None of it intentional. At least not on my side. I tell myself that. She doesn't speak right away, and I don't either. Just the clink of her spoon against the cup. Silence stretches, not uncomfortable, but sharp enough that I feel like I should say something. "How's work?" I finally ask. Her mouth curves, half amused, half tired. "Same as always. Deadlines and people who don't know what they want until it's too late." She glances at me, eyes lingering a moment longer than necessary. "And you? Still pretending to study here?" I huff a laugh, caught. "Something like that." We let the words fade. She stirs her coffee, though she never adds anything to it. I notice her thumb tapping the handle of the spoon, a quiet rhythm. I wonder if she knows she does it. What I don't tell her is that last night, I typed out a message to her 3 times and deleted it each time before hitting send. Nothing dramatic. "Just you around tomorrow?" Simple, casual. But it felt like standing on the edge of something I wasn't sure I was allowed to approach. And now here she is. Sitting close enough that I can smell the faint trace of her perfume, the same kind from the last time I brushed past her in her brother's hallway. She leans back finally, watching me in a way that feels more like waiting than casual interest. "You've been avoiding me," she says. Her voice is light, almost playful, but I feel it like a stone dropped in water, rippling out. I don't answer right away. My eyes flick to her hands resting on the table, then back up. She doesn't look away. "Only because I can't help myself around you," I say, the words slipping out before I can edit them. Her lips part slightly, like she wasn't expecting me to actually admit it. Then the faintest smile. The clock above the counter ticks once, louder than it should. And just as I start to wonder if I've ruined everything, her phone buzzes on the table. She silences it without looking down, her gaze still fixed on me. "Then maybe," she says softly, "you should stop avoiding me." I don't answer her right away. I don't think I can. The air feels too heavy for words, and my coffee's gone cold in my hands. She doesn't push, just lifts the cup to her lips, like she's willing to wait. That's what unnerves me most about her. She doesn't chase silence the way most people do. She lets it linger, until it presses against you and makes you say things you didn't mean to. I clear my throat. "I saw your brother last week." Her mouth tilts at one corner. "And he didn't mention me, did he?" I shake my head. She nods like she expected that. Then she says, almost offhand, "That's the thing about being the older one. People assume you've got everything figured out. So they stop asking how you are." The line slips out so casually I almost miss it. but the way her eyes drop to the rim of her cup tells me it wasn't casual at all. I want to ask. I want to say I'd ask you. Instead, I trace the edge of my napkin with my thumb until it tears a little. You don't really seem like someone who needs people to ask, I offer. She huffs a quiet laugh, but it doesn't reach her eyes. That's the trick, isn't it? Look fine, and no one notices when you're not. Her words stick to me. I think of the messages I never send, the thoughts I pause halfway through. I've never said it out loud, but maybe that's why I keep orbiting her. She makes silence feel less like a failure. I don't know if she sees it in my face, but she softens, just a fraction. Sorry, she says, brushing it away with her hand. Didn't mean to drop that on you. It's fine, I murmur. And it is. More than fine. Her phone buzzes again on the table, and this time she flips it over without even glancing at the screen. My stomach knots, because I can't stop myself from imagining, is it someone waiting for her? Is she shutting out a world that I don't belong in? I rub my palms against my jeans, trying to ground myself. The truth presses at the edge of my chest. She's my friend's sister, nearly twice my age, and she has a life I can't possibly fit into. But when she leans closer, resting her elbow against the table and tilting her chin slightly toward me, every rational reason feels flimsy. You remind me of someone I used to know, she says suddenly. Someone who actually listened. It shouldn't mean as much as it does. But I feel something shift inside me, like she just cracked open a door I didn't know was there. She finishes her coffee and sets the cup down carefully, fingers brushing against mine for half a second longer than necessary, as she moves it away. Just a touch. Nothing, really. But I feel it long after. And later, when I replay this moment in my head, I'll think, I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. We leave the cafe together, though we don't plan it. The street feels colder than it should, and for a moment we walk in step without saying anything. She's the one who breaks it. You're quiet. I shrug, hands stuffed in my jacket pockets. So are you. That earns me the smallest laugh, soft and low. Then silence again. The kind that makes every sound around us too loud. Cars passing, a dog barking in the distance, the scrape of my shoe against the pavement. When we reach the corner, I half expect her to turn the other way, back toward her office. But she lingers. You don't usually walk this way, she says. I don't usually. My voice trails off. I don't finish, because what I want to say is I don't usually get this close to you without stopping myself. Her gaze holds mine just a second too long, before she looks away. Something in her shoulders stiffens, like she's remembered something I haven't. Then, cutting through the moment, a voice. Hey! I turn, startled. It's her brother, my friend, crossing the street with a bag of groceries. My chest tightens so fast it almost hurts. He doesn't notice anything, not really. Just grins, lifts the bag in greeting. Didn't know you two hung out. She recovers first. Smooth, easy. We don't. Just ran into each other. I nod too quickly, too obviously. My throat feels dry. He seems satisfied and keeps moving, but the damage is done. That invisible thread between us, it snaps taut, sharp with warning. She exhales when he's gone, rubbing her hand against her temple. See? This is complicated. I want to argue. I want to tell her it doesn't matter. But her tone, steady, weary, stops me. We start walking again, slower this time. Every step feels borrowed. At her building, she unlocks the front door, then pauses, holding it half open. Her fingers tighten around the handle like she's weighing something. You should go, she says, but it doesn't sound like she wants me to. I hover, caught between the urge to step closer and the sense that if I do, something will change that neither of us can take back. Right. I manage. But my feet don't move. The hallway is dim, faint smell of laundry soap and old wood. She turns, and for a second, she's right there. Close enough that if I leaned in, my forehead would almost touch hers. Her eyes flick down, just once, toward my mouth. Quick. Unintentional. Enough. I breathe in sharply. She notices. But then she pulls back, breaking it. A small step, no explanation. Just space. Good night, she says softly, and slips inside before I can answer. The door clicks shut. I stand there for a long time, palms damp, replaying that flicker in her eyes, the one that almost undid us both. The next time we see each other, it's late afternoon. A gray sky, air heavy with the promise of rain. She's sitting on a bench outside the library, blazer folded neatly beside her, staring at nothing in particular. I almost walk past. Almost. But her shoulders shift when she hears my steps, and before I can change my mind, she glances up. You again, she says. I smile faintly. That sounds like a complaint. She shakes her head. Just an observation. I sit down at the far end of the bench, leaving space between us. Too much space. But still not enough. For a while either of us speaks. Students pass, voices blur together. A bike wheel clicks as it rolls by. She folds and unfolds the edge of her sleeve, smoothing out fabric that doesn't need smoothing. Finally, she exhales. I shouldn't be here. I turn toward her. Here as in, with me? Her jaw tightens. She doesn't answer, not right away. Then, you're my brother's friend. You're young. She cuts herself off, lips pressing together like the rest is dangerous. I swallow hard. I know all of that. And I stop too, because saying more feels like stepping into air with no ground below. Her hand rests on her knee. I notice the way her fingers curl inward, like she's holding something back. My own hands ball into fists against my thighs, then relax. You think I don't notice? She says softer now. The way you look at me? My chest tightens. Do you want me to stop? That lands between us like a stone. She stares straight ahead, rain-scented air thick around us. A pause long enough that I think she won't answer. No, she says finally. Barely above a whisper. Something inside me cracks at that, equal parts relief and fear. I lean forward, elbows on my knees, trying to breathe. Then why do we keep pretending? Her eyes flick to me, sharp, searching. There's something raw in them now, stripped of the careful ease she always carries. Because once we stop, she murmurs, we don't get to take it back. My throat goes dry. She's right. Of course she's right. But sitting here, shoulder to shoulder, the distance feels unbearable. The clouds shift, a low rumble of thunder somewhere far off. She pulls her blazer into her lap, clutching it like a shield. I almost reach for her hand. Almost. My fingers twitch but don't move. She notices. Her lips part, like she's about to say something else. Something final. But she doesn't. She just looks at me, steady, unblinking, as if she's asking me to decide. And in that long silence I realize, maybe she is. The question hangs unspoken between us, heavier than the storm about to break. The storm came and went overnight. By morning, the sky was washed clean, air sharp with leftover rain. I went to the cafe earlier than usual, half hoping she wouldn't come, half afraid she wouldn't. But she wasn't there. Not that day. Not the next. At first I told myself she was busy, work, deadlines, the usual. But after 3 days the silence started to feel deliberate. I almost texted her more than once. Even typed it out, coffee tomorrow? Each time my thumb hovered over send, each time I erased it. My phone became a mirror for hesitation. On the 4th day, I ran into her brother. He mentioned her in passing. She's been around less lately, helping out with her daughter. The word stopped me. Daughter. I must have looked confused, because he went on. Yeah, she's been spending more time with her. Teenager now. Moody as hell. Guess that's what happens when you don't see them enough. He kept talking, but I barely heard. Daughter. A whole part of her life I didn't even know existed. Not hidden exactly, but never mentioned. It hit me harder than I wanted to admit. Not jealousy, Not exactly. More like realization. She had entire worlds that didn't include me, responsibilities that made what we'd been circling around feel impossibly fragile. The next time I finally saw her, it wasn't at the cafe. It was outside the grocery store, late evening. She had a bag in one hand, her keys in the other. She looked tired, her hair pulled back tighter than usual. When she saw me, something flickered across her face, not annoyance, not relief. Something heavier. "Hey," I said carefully. She nodded, adjusting the strap on her shoulder. "Hi." We stood there too long, both of us pretending to look busy with nothing. "How've you been?" I asked. Her answer was too quick. "Fine. Busy." The conversation flatlined after that. She didn't offer more, and I didn't push. The distance was obvious, like a wall had grown in the days since the bench, and neither of us wanted to admit it was there. She glanced at her phone, then at me. "I should go." "Right. Yeah." I almost asked if she wanted help with the bags. Almost asked if she wanted to talk. But my mouth stayed shut. When she drove away, I stood under the streetlight, the sound of tires fading. That night, I opened my phone again. Typed out the words, "I miss you." Simple, too simple, but true. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. Then I deleted them, thumb heavy, chest heavier. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused. Like life forgot to finish the sentence. And I wasn't sure if she would ever come back to complete it. I hadn't planned to see her. I was dropping something off at her brother's place, a book he'd lent me, when she opened the door instead. Hair loose, sweater hanging off one shoulder, no makeup. Not the version of her I was used to. She blinked, then let out a small breath. "He's not here." "I know," I said. My voice came out lower than I meant. "I was just returning this." She nodded, eyes flicking down to the book in my hand. For a second, I thought she'd let me leave. But then she stepped back, holding the door open just enough. "Do you want to come in for a minute?" The living room light was soft yellow. A mug sat half-finished on the table. The house smelled faintly of chamomile tea and laundry detergent. We sat across from each other, but the distance between us felt artificial, like two people pretending not to know what they were thinking. Finally, she spoke. "I've been avoiding you." I let the words hang. "Yeah. I thought it would be easier," she said, fingers wrapped tight around her mug. "If I pulled back before we—" She stopped, shaking her head. "Before this became something I couldn't explain." My chest ached at the word before. "You don't have to explain it," I said quietly. "Not to me." She gave me a look, sharp, almost frustrated. "Of course I do. You're my brother's friend. You're too young. I have a life you don't know about. A daughter who doesn't need me dragging home complications." The word complications stung, though I knew she didn't mean it cruelly. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. "I know all of that. And I still keep showing up." Her mouth trembled into something like a laugh, though it wasn't funny. She pressed her palm against her forehead. "You don't get it. Wanting something at my age, it doesn't feel hopeful. It feels reckless." I hesitated, then said softer than I meant, "It feels the same at mine." That broke something in the room. Not loud, not visible, but I felt it. She lowered her hand, staring at me like she wasn't sure if I'd just saved us or ruined everything. Silence stretched, heavier than before. I could hear the clock ticking in the kitchen. I wanted to say more, tell her I'd stop if she asked, that I'd disappear if it made her life easier. But the truth pressed harder than the offer. "I don't want to stop," I whispered. Her eyes softened then, a long, searching look that felt like it lasted years. She set her mug down slowly, carefully, as though afraid the smallest sound would break the moment. Then, without words, she reached across the table, her fingers brushing mine. Not pulling, not clutching, just resting there. I turned my hand over, let her hold it. We sat like that, the whole room quiet except for the clock. And when she finally whispered, "Okay," It was enough. There was no declaration, no sudden decision. Just small shifts that slowly became routine. A week after that night in her living room, I saw her again at the cafe, 8:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. She walked in, ordered her usual black coffee, and when she saw me, her pause lasted only a second before she came over and sat down. No hesitation. We didn't talk about what we were. Not then, not even weeks later. We just kept showing up. Some mornings, she'd save me a seat. Other days, I'd wait outside her office with 2 cups in hand. Sometimes we said nothing for an hour, just sat together, the silence softer now than it had ever been. Once, walking past the library, she pointed to the bench where the storm nearly broke us. "I still can't believe I said all that out loud." I smiled, stuffing my hands into my jacket. "I'm glad you did." Her hand brushed mine that day, not by accident. At her place, things were quieter still. Sometimes I'd come by late, after her daughter was already asleep. She'd make chamomile tea, hand me a mug, and we'd sit in the kitchen under the dim light, both of us too tired to pretend anymore. She didn't call it love. I didn't either. But I felt it in the way she let her guard down, in the way I wanted to stay even when there was nothing to say. It wasn't simple. There were days she pulled back, afraid, and days I wondered if I fit into her life at all. But the distance never lasted long. Somehow, one of us always reached for the other, a text left unsent finally sent, a knock on the door finally answered. Months later, her brother still didn't know, and maybe that was for the best. What mattered was how, slowly, the edges of our lives began to blur. The last time we sat in that cafe before the semester ended, she glanced at me over her cup. "You still fidget when you're nervous," she said. "And you still fold your napkin like it's a test," I replied. She laughed, really laughed, the kind that bent her shoulders forward. I'd seen her smile plenty, but the laugh felt different. Freer. I thought then of the first time she caught me avoiding her, the way her voice carried that playful accusation, "You've been avoiding me." And how I had said, almost without thinking, "Only because I can't help myself around you." Looking at her now, coffee cooling between us, I realized I hadn't been avoiding her anymore. Not for a long time. Life hadn't turned into something cinematic. It was still messy, still complicated, still quiet. But it felt lived in. Earned. And when she reached across the table to steady my restless hand, I thought, this is ours. Not perfect, but enough. 3.